Hey, this is Jeff Haynes, editor on the IGN PlayStation team, and this is the video review for NCAA football for the Xbox and the PlayStation 2. There's a ton of new features for this year's game. The first one happens to be an expanded amount of playbooks. Every single school happens to have their own unique playbook, and considering that they're about 30% larger than they have been in previous years, you're most likely going to find some unique package that your particular favorite school likes to run, whether it's the Nevada Pistol, the South Carolina Emory Henry, or some other formation like a Flexbone or some other package. You're going to find something that your school specifically runs in certain situations. There's a little bit more of an offensive focus this time around in NCAA football, and you notice that in the sense that you can do offensive slide protection on the line or specific hot routes in the formation without actually giving away that you're changing one receiver's route on a given play. Quarterbacks now can also throw the ball at a certain receiver's feet to avoid any intentional grounding penalties, as well as the ability to run in and out of the pocket without having to pull down their passing windows, which is a major change and gives quarterbacks, in some cases, a Michael Vick-like escapability, which is a little bit of a downside because it takes away from the realism. On special teams, there's a completely new kicking mechanism where you use the analog stick to direct the power and the accuracy of your shot. However, this also gives you an option to abort kicks and plays into the trick play mechanic that they've instituted for this year as well. There's a huge focus on deception in NCAA Football 07, and whether that's the punt rooski, a double option, direct snap to a receiver or fullback, any number of trick plays that you might remember or you may have seen in an actual college football game have been included in NCAA Football 07, and they can be run with deadly efficiency. Now, the defense does have some way of protecting against this. They have a few hot routes, they have a couple of line and linebacker shifts that you can run, and you can also attempt to jump the snap count and try to get into the backfield a little bit earlier. Now, if you happen to mistime the jump, you can possibly be flagged for being offsides. But if you actually get your timing just right, you'll blow through a lineman, jump into the backfield, and have a great chance at sacking the quarterback. Any specific play that you do could be a difference maker in the game, and you'll actually notice a momentum meter starting to fill up. The more you fill that bar up, the higher and more pumped up your players will be, and they'll start to pull off these momentum moments. Items where you'll see one-handed catches or harder tackles and blocks, and these can actually give you a sense that the game is moving in your favor. Unfortunately, there happens to be a little bit of an unbalancing aspect to this because sometimes your team can get so pumped up that there's no chance for the other team to get back into the game. But it is a really, really nice way to get yourself emotionally involved and invested in what's going on the field. Apart from the actual regular play, there's a completely revamped campus mode, which is now entitled Campus Legend, as opposed to Race for the Heisman from last year. Last year's game was primarily focused on only winning the Heisman Award. This time around, you'll need to hit the books as well as your blocks because you'll need to choose from a major. There's one of 18 specific classes that you can possibly choose to major in Campus Legend mode, and they range from easy, moderate, and hard. And you'll have to actually dedicate time in the evenings to either studying, meeting with a tutor, or if you choose to neglect your studies, you can go to a social event and boost your stats on the campus, or run a position-specific drill. One of the problems that happens to come up with the Campus Legend mode in and of itself is that there's so much of a focus on the academics that your stats for your character will sometimes decline. You'll need to dedicate sometimes 3 or 4 nights a week hitting the books just to maintain your GPA at whatever level it might be, whether you're actually reaching the dean's list or you're barely scraping in eligibility requirements. On the other hand, there's some other issues, such as creating players who are so fast that there's absolutely no reason for them to be playing football in the first place. I actually managed to make a defensive tackle who ran a 4.28 in the 40-yard dash. Get him out of football and please put him on the track team. Things like this actually manage to unbalance a little bit of the realism of the mode, even though it does make it a little bit more accessible and a little bit more arcadey when you're starting to establish your player as the campus legend for that school. Now, whether you play Campus Legend Mode or any one of the other game modes in NCAA Football 07, it features new camera angles and dynamic gameplay that follows one specific player during a certain moment with new low camera angles to give you a deeper sense of being on the field or in the action of that play itself. There does happen to be a few problems. For instance, if you wind up committing a momentum play, such as a catch that winds up going into the end zone, you can sometimes be flagged for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty because the sequence will move from the momentum play into the reception and then the celebration afterwards, and that long sequence will automatically get you a foul on the kickoff. Another issue happens to be coaches' challenges, which are newly included into NCAA Football 07 and gives you a chance to undo a possibly unfair call. However, there's certain calls that the game still manages to blow. For instance, catches that happen to be blatantly out of bounds will still be ruled fair catches and the plays will stand, which will frustrate any player no matter who they happen to be or what their tolerance level is. These issues aside, NCAA Football 07 is a new way of looking at the college game that you've never really experienced before. It manages to track the emotional highs and lows of the game with a new momentum system, places a completely new emphasis on the idea of trick plays and implementing line and offensive and defensive shifts of the game, and gives you those moments that you really will talk about with your friends for years to come. Any other questions? Take a look at the full review on the site. See you on the field.